Good evening.
Hello. Bill Tasker.
Here.
Judy Rose. Laura Necky. Unicky.
Hello. Present.
Diana Kessler. Here. Michael Mangini.
Here.
Judy Nelson.
Here.
Jim Parks. I think he's coming. It's not here yet. Aaron Seedaku. Aaron. And Rose Tohi. I think we might have a few people coming in late.
Oh, we have the phone.
Yeah. We
Okay.
have one.
Well, super. Welcome to everybody. And how about guests?
Do the guests online want to introduce themselves? They see an Antonio. And an Angela.
Well, super. Welcome to them. And then how about in here?
Yeah, let's go around. We've got some additional staff here tonight. If you want to introduce
I'm
yourself.
Nate Reiser, I'm the assistant county engineer for Coconino County.
And I'm Chad Ucker, I'm the county engineer for Coconino County.
And I'm Nina Schmidt, I'm Sustainable Building Program Manager.
Okay. Well, we have lots to cover tonight. So, but before we get started, we wanted to maybe just do a little bit of house committee on one particular topic with regard to the next date of our visit. You want to go over that a little bit?
Thank you. And make sure I'm going to speak up and loudly toward the ceiling. The next meeting is scheduled for December 19th. That would be your next regularly scheduled meeting. We wanted to ask everybody if that will be a date that people can still attend. You'll see on the screen here that next month we have planned to bring Parks, Recreation, Trails, and Open Space chapter to you to review. And then after that, there are two remaining chapters. There's the Community Services, Public Safety Partnerships, and also Resilient Economies and Housing. So wanting to talk to you about the best way to schedule the following meetings given the holidays. Plus, as you'll notice, we're bringing back revised chapters to you as we finish them. So in addition to, for instance, next month, looking at Parks, Open Space, Trails, and Recreation, we wanted to bring back natural environment to you, as well as the diverse cultures, community characters. So like tonight, we're reviewing two of the chapters that were revised, as well as two new ones. So I wanted to ask about availability for December 19th, or if you would prefer to push meetings into more January, February.
Interesting. I get to go on vacation that week. We weren't happy to come here. That's what we need to do. But if we could push it off into the next month, it would be super for me. However, as I suggested, we need to accommodate for everybody else's needs.
Let's push it.
It's fine with me. It's fine with us. Yeah.
And it gives a little more time to review this. This was,
Yes, so
it wasn't, yeah.
we're moving the 19th into January.
Well, does everybody else concur with that, or is there some concern about doing?
Can everyone online hear the conversation?
Yep.
Yes,
Adding it in
I
one-
can make it on the 19th, but happy to go with the majority.
Okay.
So in January then, the third Thursday is January 16th, and then there's the 23rd. So, and then in February is the 20th. So those would be the stay on that Thursday schedule. And I do see that Rose has joined, as well as a few other people.
Hello, everybody.
Well, Louis,
Hello.
Do you want to ask?
did you see anybody who else came on the side roads?
Yeah, on the bottom.
Other visitors.
Oh,
Do you want to ask if everyone online is okay with?
yeah, let's get to, it sounds like in the room we're pretty well set there. Our question to you online is would you be up for moving the December 19th meeting that we have scheduled and move it to Thursday, January 16th? And then push the next meetings out into February and March. Would that be all right with everybody, or is there some concern?
It's okay with me,
Okay.
Judy. I'm okay with January 6th.
16th.
January
December.
16th. Yeah.
Oh, 16th, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm
I'm good
fine
with
with
it.
this. Sorry,
Yep.
this is Rose. I'm okay with leaving it at December or moving it. I'm fine either way. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is really terrific, because I think what we're doing is we're heading towards moving to January 16th. Jim Parks just showed up. Let's make sure we give him a chance to. Yeah, we need to put you in the hot seat right away. We're talking about moving the meeting from, potentially moving it from December 19th and then pushing it into January. Would that be fair enough for you?
That would be just great.
Super. Well,
Okay, we're good.
sounds like we're good.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, this is really great. Okay, well, this is your turn.
All right. Well, this again is just the agenda for tonight. Just to look at it briefly, we wanted to talk about the chapters that were revised and back to you. On both sustainability, resilience, energy and climate, and the water resources. So those were the two chapters that we revised and sent back to you. And first of all, wanted to ask if you had any comments on those or questions. And then we did have one change. Does anybody have any questions or comments on how the chapters were revised? All of the notes that we had taken during the meeting were put in the comments section. So everything that you all had raised and then how we responded to those are in that draft. For both water resources and then the sustainability, energy, resilience and climate.
Number 4, water management and regulatory framework. I don't think they're called permits. When Arizona Department of Water Resources gives you a water right, I don't think they're called permits. Where are they? I can't remember what they are.
What page are you on?
Page 3. Water management and regulatory framework, second paragraph. Toward the bottom, based on permits, given to the first person who uses the water. I don't think they're called permits.
And it's called statement claim.
Yeah, that's not called a permit. Should we change that?
That's a good catch. Yeah,
You got that?
Yeah, okay.
What did they call
I think it's called statement claim.
Yeah.
Statement.
Statement claim?
Statement of.
I think that's what they call
We can
it.
double check that.
I have one little thing just to the top of that same page. It starts with water demand and future supply. That sentence, when I read it, caused a jiggle in my brain. I think would be better worded. The second line in that bullet point. That starts on water user demand and water supply. There should be a comma for removal of and, then security, and then then deletion of pose, and just say challenges for long-term water planning. We'll turn it up for the bullet point because we better.
Can everyone online hear that?
Oh, sorry.
Did you want me to
No.
read that, please?
Yeah, there's a bullet point that starts off with water demand and future supply. And I'll just read the sentence. It says, changing climate, natural drought cycles, and increasing water user demand impact water supply. And I think the word there should be comma after supply, delete and then security, and then it should be and then delete the word pose, and then put challenges for long-term water planning. I think it was intended to be a litany of comments on that bullet point. But I'm gonna get technical on this, because didn't seem to say what I was trying to say.
Okay, thank you.
On page number 5, the second bullet point at the top, CWP, CPWP. I don't see, was that written out somewhere else? Because I have no idea what that is.
It was earlier, that's the Colorado Plateau Watershed Partnership.
I did look for it, or it is written.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that's that advisory group, well, they do more than advising, but that's the nonprofit group that we've relied on heavily to help give us the information for this update.
Melissa, that was the one that somebody was here speaking several times ago. Was that the report, that's a question, what that study was?
I think that we didn't have a speaker from them talking to us.
It was in our packet.
It was in your packet. Well, it's in the appendix, actually, which we have sent to you before. I haven't sent it to you this time yet.
I have one more question on page 7, the bottom paragraph, the quality of the surface water in Coconino County rivers, creeks, lakes, reservoirs generally very good. Does that include Oak Creek, which seems to have a lot of problems with?
Well, it says generally very good. The Oak
Okay.
Creek does have issues.
Okay.
And that is on the ADQ, ADWR rather, and ADQ monitor those. But, and this is, yeah, that is the one, that is a problem area.
This is just me. I'm just going through mine. I'm sorry, everybody. I will shut up in a minute. On page 12, water demand and future supply, the bottom paragraph. We don't know if this is because of climate change. I would take out because of climate change. The paragraphs or that sentence is fine, but we don't know if it is climate change. I would argue that it doesn't need to be there, but that's just, we don't need to push climate change all the time. Then on 13, the first
Wait,
line
I'm sorry, you said the last paragraph on 12?
on 12,
Oh, I did.
3 lines up, we
Okay,
cover
that's right.
climate change. I just think all of this is just happening, but I don't think we have to say it's because of climate change, because
I would just like to add this, does the group agree with that?
probably not, but
No, I agree with that. I mean, it's changing, but
yeah,
exactly why it's happening.
we don't know.
You asked me, it's forest fires. I dealt with loggers, pumpers, and chippers in the 80s, represented them all against the Forest Service in the middle. In 1985, late 84, I made a comment to the Forest Service because it's where cut logging and pulping and all that's going to be gone in 2.5 years. And I made a comment in a public meeting. How many 100,000 acre forest fires are we going to be able to withstand before we realize we made a major mistake? That unfortunately, we haven't had 10,000 acre fires.
We need to come to conference, talk to May, whatever, he made a big statement last week about how wonderful we not talk about the forest fires.
Well, I just see that,
Yeah.
whatever it is, just my position. You see all the smoke that rolls down, where you got the one race. We didn't have this smoke down there growing up. It was ridiculous. It's now just every year. I had a cousin who lived a whole life differently.
I know.
They said, this is crazy. So, I don't know, and I see the siltation issues that's happened on the groundwater. We have these forest fires that take place and you see the silt moving across this area. Oh, no, that's the devastating forest fires. Even the controlled burns
Has the same.
would not meet, if you call it a construction site, it would not meet the stormwater protection permit standards when they have these controlled burns or prescribed burns, what do you want to call them? And I'm like, are we gonna sit there and wait another 40 years and go like, maybe we made a mistake? Because I think something's gotta be, maybe try something in one spot, try something in another to try to figure it out versus, we're divine and we come up with some idea. because these fires just, to me, how long can last? They'll be there forever. Well, that's not acceptable. Let's do this for 30 years and try to figure out if this will work. But if we're just saying that's what we're gonna do is treat it like a city park, these vast lands, I think it's a big mistake. Big mistake.
I agree.
Lastly, on the water quality in these areas. Years ago, I had ADQ calls me and asked me if I'm using my lagoon water for construction, I'd have to check. And I'm saying, yeah, absolutely. And they said, we don't permit it. Oh, I'm sorry. My God, I had the construction company for Lake Mary Road came in, wanted to use the water. They were gonna put a standpipe in. So based on that permit, the Forest Service came to test. EPA said, no, that's our jurisdiction. They came to do tests. They all approved it for construction Lake Mary Road. Simultaneous with that, because the time it took to build Lake Mary Road took a while, they're working on the state highway. Right there,
87.
Princewell 87 run that direction for 20 miles. And so that two contractors come in and ask for the same thing. Sure. So the Forest Service comes, does their test. And then EPA says, no, it's our jurisdiction, they do the test. Both of them come out, well, we started an expansion at the same time. And so we're using the same standpipe, putting in our water trucks to use it for construction.
Like, I'm gonna interrupt here. Is this, yeah.
It's relevant to the water quality.
Okay.
We're sitting there saying that stuff's pristine. They turn around and get a free water test. They come back, so we have good news and bad news. Give me the good news. You can use it for whatever you want. So what could possibly be the bad news? It's cleaner than Lake Mary. And I said, are you serious? Yes. Your sewer lagoon is cleaner than Lake Mary. What happens is in these lakes, there is a line in here that makes comments about the wildlife, sheets off, and that stuff ends up in our lakes and streams. That is something I think we got to recognize, and it does have a comment in here, I thought I lined it out. What's that? And then Oak Creek, you mentioned Oak Creek.
Okay, well, you'll probably be getting to that, I guess.
Yeah.
I
Go
think
ahead.
Diana wanted another page, I'd comment on the next page.
Yeah, I just wondered who is, the city's applied for the purchase of Red Deck Grant Page and utility source. What is utility?
I'm sorry, what
source?
page are you on? Tell us.
13.
13?
So utility source is, they're the water and sewer company that provides service to residents in Belmont.
Oh, okay.
They're called utility source, that's the name of that company.
Okay, on page 14, middle of the first paragraph, future supply, where increasing water demands and changing climate have been observed in eastern Coconino County, where industrial, agriculture, municipal. Where is there industrial, agriculture, municipal in eastern Coconino County? Where is that? Is that,
So that would be, let me just take a look here. Yeah, that was some modeling that had been done previously. And I would have to go back into those studies that are cited to pull out additional information. But that was modeling that they're doing, observing, different groundwater impacts.
That was in the previous comprehensive plan, right?
Yeah,
yeah, that's what it says.
and yeah, we don't have anything more recent that I know of in terms of that drawdown.
That's it.
Was that for Liz, you put everything?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
That's what I was wondering.
I think it might have actually been further east from Coconino. Wasn't it Over area from St. John's? I think it might have been even potentially outside.
It does county,
But
but
it was mentioned in the last.
it's a model of the sea aquifer in Arizona and New Mexico, so it was a bigger study.
Mhm. But I think that language you might want to look at that eastern Coconino County.
Yeah.
Good with Joe Stevens.
Yeah. Is Mojave generating station still going? That was in that study was done in 2005. I thought Mojave generating station was also shut.
I can look online right now.
Yes. It's-
I think that is,
I don't know that that's a relevant schedule.
Anybody else comments, or do you have additional comments?
Thank you. I just have one in that future supply. Do we want to encourage dams? They have like the on-site water harvesting. I'm just wondering if dams are going to be part of that.
I don't know that we could speak to that at this point. That would be, I believe, a Bureau of Reclamation issue, and that hasn't been something that we've learned about or heard about or understood that would be anything that would impact our supply.
You know, 6-foot dams are non-regulating those.
That out of the and
That's what we want to do, because they're talking about some on-site and harvesting, we might have new dams or something like that.
That could be something, I don't know. We haven't looked into it enough to really understand what are all the implications would be to talk about that from a county point of view. You know, we know about on-site water harvesting as something that we work with to help people understand how to install those systems, but dams are a whole different world that we haven't honestly dived into.
I'm dealing with one of the nature conservancy. It basically is the water harvesting underground, and it's.
For cisterns,
It's just a big leach field, along these massive leach fields at 10, 15 feet deep. One side.
I mean, if you
Thousand
feel,
people.
yeah, if you could email something, I mean, we can look into that, for possibly including that in here. Be great. Bill, did you want to ask if any members online had anything on water resources before we go into the next topic?
Does anybody online have questions regarding water resources? Anybody else?
I don't
Okay,
right now.
Sorry. What I wanted to mention is we'll make these additional adjustments and then we'll post these online on the project website, so people can start to review the current draft. They'll still be drafts until they come back through, as a complete package, and then, it goes to 60-day review and open houses, so. Yeah, just wanted to make sure that that's process is clear, so we'll be putting these up online for review. Thanks. So the next re-review, I guess we'll call it, is Sustainability, Resilience, Energy, and Climate chapter. And you all have that. Were there any comments or updates or corrections to that chapter?
I don't want to talk all the time, Melissa. Maybe I'll come and see you.
Well, go ahead and bring them up. It'd be good for the group to
Okay,
hear
well-
what your comments are.
I know we can't put economic in here, but I think we should. I know there's a whole other chapter on one of theirs going to have economic activity, but I think we need to read in the value statement and maybe in the vision statement. Then in the vision statement, third line down, what is your definition of conservation? What is that? Does it mean we're going to do nothing, or we're going to harvest something, or we're just going to stand back and see what's happening? What? As a rancher, I have some conservation means we're going to use it, so I don't know whether that. Okay, so that's kind of what the plan is. Using conservation is going to be using it. We're not going to just preserve all of it.
Well, there's both. There's preservation and conservation,
Yeah.
so it includes both where it's appropriate to preserve something and then conserve something.
and do we have a definition of it in the glossary?
I need to check.
Okay.
And then on 13, or page 33, Coconino County, the second one down, Coconino County, utility scale renewable. What is the Western interconnected system? Is that what we're calling WAPA?
It might be the acronym, but that's the energy grid that we're tied into here.
Yes.
This one, the WECC, stretches from Western Canada south to Baja. So I guess that's a bigger thing than WAPA is part of it, and over there is one of them. Is other pipelines, there other transmission lines are within the WECC. Must be, huh?
And so what, Diana, you were saying what? What is
Yeah,
that?
Western, nothing power authority, Western American Power Authority. It's a line that goes through us.
Hmm,
Is yours a WAPA? Yeah. That's what was confusing to me.
it's a good question. I don't know what to that.
Yeah.
Where is the Forge Ethnic Wind Farm? 100 wind turbines.
It's just north of Cedar Ridge. Just north of Cedar Ridge.
Oh, it is north of Cedar. Okay,
That's unbad.
okay.
I see it online, so okay, what page are you on? And we don't ask that question.
On ECC, it was on page 3.
And then what was your question about the wind farm location? What page is that?
That is on page 7.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. I can't see in the chat.
Community supported agriculture and all of that. Have we ever figured out what each person consumes in Coconino County, the pound of food that everybody consumes? And then take that and then look at the CSA and farmers market? There's no way that unless we build a lot more greenhouses or slaughterhouses, there's no way that we can serve even Coconino County with what's produced here.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I know, there are groups in the city that are really working on agriculture, and greenhouses is something they are really wanting to expand the use of those and to have CCC have programs in, smaller farming efforts. And yeah, I think the point, like Marty was the one that wrote that section, but just the importance of food for resilience and having local food, the more we have it, the better off we are in terms of resilience. And so,
But I think we need to figure out how much we need to produce. I think it would just blow the mind up.
I think it would too.
If we can produce it here, we can't process it.
No, there's no processing.
So it goes where.
It's hard because of our climate, but also water. We just don't have a lot of water.
That's-
And so,
I suspect the food link people have some.
Well, I think it would be interesting to put it in there.
Yes. And
I
then,
It's a good idea.
So then I think we can slaughterhouse, but you guys, not you guys, but that has come up many, many times. And it always gets put down.
You can jump into the lottery and get the slaughterhouse. And I say that because that's what it is.
There are several small facilities that take care of slaughtering mostly wildlife, mostly feed animals in the fall. They will process beef or lambs or whatever also.
But if you look at the quantity, we can't.
That's true.
yeah.
Jim, my understanding, excuse me, interrupt you, but my understanding they can't buy a beef process it and sell them in a restaurant.
The,
These restaurants are shutting down.
now, the Flying M used to, and Baptist tried for a while, tried to cut their own beef. But there again, the problem was the slaughterhouse.
Gotta be certified.
They have to be USDA inspected, and the closest one to get that done is in Chino Valley.
And I think
There are
there's
3 slaughterhouses in Chino Valley.
only one is USDA, the others are Arizona. And I think there's one now.
So I think Jim Peterson is USDA first.
He is USDA, but Perkinsville isn't. And part of the other, the one in Williams is not. They're just ADA
Oh,
certified.
right.
So USDA you can't, you can sell to a restaurant from ADA, but you can't sell across the state line. It's gotta be USDA. But I mean, that's a big holdup.
Are you guys still producing Diablo meat?
No, we gave it up. Mostly because it's too far. It's 120 miles from Ranch to there.
There's an example.
There's
an example, lack of resilience.
exactly, yeah. And it might, I mean, if we were resilient, there are a lot of people trying it. Maybe Coconino County, small things, small farmers could be resilient. Otherwise, you gotta sell them whole beef or, well, you sell them a beef and then they gotta parcel it out as orders.
Hey, I do have a policy suggestion for the economic resilient economies chapter. I mean, it sounds to me like that's where you may be going with this, is thinking about a policy that would support either CSAs or additional small local food production
Well, not
areas.
even local, but just,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we'll need to write that into that other chapter to tie this together.
Back to what you said. I think that the beef production is ahead of the farming production. We have those little greenhouses around, and people are really trying to sell stuff out of the greenhouses. And our Babbitt's Farmers Market down here does a land office
Yes,
business
they
every
do.
Sunday. That's not enough.
Did you have more comments,
Safeway.
Diana? Sorry.
Safeway and Fry's and the rest of them, they bring in truckloads on truckloads on truckloads of what they sell down in the farmers market. That's what sustains us. You know, it's resilient.
Are you looking for something now from Diane?
I'm sorry?
Are you looking for a statement?
Oh, I thought you, no, but I thought you had more comments on this chapter.
I'll just shut up. How's that?
No, if you have comments to go through.
Okay, well, finding for them on page 30, on page 16, and we're talking about, it is the second bullet point down there, we're talking about encourage alternative fuel, multimodal and micromodal transportation, or that is, and funding for them.
What policy number are you on? Sorry.
Number goal SR9, policy SR9 on page 15, but it rolls into 16, and it's the second bullet point there. Identify park and ride locations and funding for them.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get back to where the people that are using it have to fund it somehow. We can't just depend on outside funding. I don't know how to do that, but we need the users to pay, I think, and that's just me.
Well, you're right, we can't depend on the county or the city.
So users have to pay. I mean, if you're driving a car, you're buying gas and you're paying insurance and all that. So if you're going to park and ride, those people that are using that need to only have some.
The park and ride, another person's going to the same job they're going to, or whatever. That would just be on them. That would not be on.
Well, and the thing about park and ride though, are often they're identified locations with signs where people can legitimately park.
Okay, so the funding would be for signs, things like that.
Usually, I'm glad that this is a segue into our transportation chapter. Do you know, Nate or Chad, in terms of parking, but I think it is minimal cost as long as there's a parking lot or a parking area that's available, and then it's not like purchasing land for it.
Well, it depends on where it's at. Sometimes you be like up at Tucson when they put in the parking lot for the bus show up there. That was a pretty big expense that basically doesn't have to be used.
So it depends on the location.
It's never used by the bus company for the park because their buses can't run in it. They designed it so that buses can't turn around.
Okay, well,
It's the only thing that's there.
that's one example. We don't want to repeat.
No, Dana, your comment, that this area, like the EVs and stuff, like, I've read this in totality, looking at, we receive a lot of tourists into our county. And when they start going around in their Teslas, county's a big county, so they go somewhere, it's not predictable what they can charge. And the question, how do we deal with these charging as a county and to encourage these tourists to come here? I know myself, and look at you guys too, an electric vehicle is just not gonna work. I'm gonna get stuck. Because we just don't have the distance and my stupidity. So those two things, I need to stay with a vehicle that's a hybrid, or just to go gas guzzler type vehicle. But I do understand these tourists that come into our county, we don't want them to get stranded. And how do we create a policy that, like Melissa had, create a policy that says we encourage these to go in certain locations? The county, somebody looks for a power line extension. You have to provide certain KWs at this location. I don't know, there's stuff like that. That's how we got natural gas. And the big pipelines came through, go run natural gas to these communities. I think the same thing, like I do see these electrics coming up here, and they just don't have places to charge.
I'm going to jump in a little bit, and then I know Nina might be able to add to it, but I do. So ADOT does have an electrification plan where they are looking statewide at installing charging stations on state routes. And there's also some other programs to help businesses install the chargers. So there's awareness that that's an issue, and I think it's evolving to get the charging stations out to the more remote places. Want to add to that?
I'm just wondering if you're actually saying we should require them, like, in, through the zoning ordinance for X commercial projects. Is that sort of where you were going?
Oh, yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, requirement, whether it's a government project or a private project, because up north, most of it's government. There's a lot of government stuff in the county. And just put them in, if that's what we're doing as a society. But I think the tourists, it's a negative effect on tourists.
I'm going to ask Jess to chime in here. Jess, if you can hear this conversation, it's about EV charging stations and potentially having the zoning code require those. I think that it's in the zoning code that those are permitted by right, where it's a commercial use. Jess, is that right? Do you know?
We've addressed this several times, and currently we don't call out EV chargers in the zoning ordinance, but they are permitted as an accessory. They're just an accessory use, if you want to call it a use, when it is an accessory use. So, for instance, we've had commercial developments that have wanted to put EV chargers on several of their parking spaces. Great, no problem. It's accessory to the commercial use that's taking place there already. So it's not a primary use that's attracting people to the location like a filling station. So if a charging station was the primary use, then it would be the same thing as a fuel station. You're pulling up there to charge your vehicle. And that would just require commercial development. So we've had several commercial developments that have added EV charging stations to their required parking spaces for their commercial use, and we just consider it a permitted by right accessory use. Which, and if you really think about it, that's the exact same thing as having one inside your garage at your house. Your house is a permitted use in residential zoning. You now have a EV charger in with your house if you've chosen to install one. Does that answer the question for everyone?
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
There are a few commercial charging stations around. Forest Junction has one.
There's one at the walk-in.
Twin Arrows has one.
So, yeah, and I think that on different automobile makers and, well, their apps will find the stations.
Oh.
So if you have an EV, then it will tell you where you can go to charge. Did you want to ask them?
A lot of our development stuff, we see coming in gas stations and stuff like that, that are implementing, EV charging stations.
Does that address the issue then?
Well, I
Yeah.
think that's not, I guess it's not the evidence in there. Now that made some, interstate locations, applications to get into federal and the ADOT's expansion. And, filled out the application, went through all that process and never heard of it. So I'm not sure what's going on, and these interchanges could easily accommodate with existing gas and there's power, I thought it was strange, but, it's one of many things you try to fill out and move forward. I don't know what happened with ADOT and actually the one grant was federal transportation.
If you leave it to the private sector and it becomes profitable, they will appear.
Yeah. That's a good
Any
point.
other comments on sustainability?
Yeah, I got one on page 13 or 16. Under the implementation strategy, lobby for more renewable energy development, blah, blah. Have we ever talked about cooperative, electric cooperatives that could be in an area like the person that called, or Kate and I at the last time, saying one of the local producers of electricity to fund Flagstaff. Well, that doesn't happen with regulation, but have we ever talked about electric? Wow, give me something. Co-ops, yeah. I know one that for a long time in eastern Arizona, so I don't know if we should think about that if you produce it locally, maybe you can market it locally with an electric co-op.
So my understanding is that it's not allowed by the Corporation Commission.
Well, we need
So
to let
that's
them.
why we have to lobby the state and Arizona Corporation Commission for more choices. So that is the third bullet there.
Yeah, that's what they didn't mention electrical, power co-ops specifically, but other states like New Mexico and California are pursuing these community scale microgrid projects. So they generate their own power, they supply it, well, at least they're buffered from disruptions to the larger grid. And we are not allowed to do that in Arizona, but it could clearly benefit, especially more rural locations. For those of us who only have access to one transmission line.
Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, so that's a corporation commission rule.
Yeah.
That.
Certainly, Coconino County supporting that would be terrific.
Yes,
So we have that.
so that's what that policy is about.
Yes.
On that engineering for the RWE project at wind turbines, that was one of the common discussion was, is that power staying with us? I mean, us, meaning Coconino County is distinguished from us, the greater western United States. Right? How many times is that question asked in that area?
A lot.
A lot, a lot.
I think that's where we respond. It stays in that Western energy grid, and some of it may stay here, but it does eventually tie to the grid and it can be sent out.
Right.
But
It's not the local co-op like you're talking about.
So Marty added to the table of, the renewable energy projects, a final column, and it talks about the purchase agreements for each of the projects. So I don't know exactly how that works. I wasn't here to talk about it, but,
What page is that on?
yeah, like SRP. You can speak to it, just that's here.
Well, I might be able to, but clearly with Mike and others here, but, The power purchase agreements are largely going to be from three utilities in our city. They're going to be largely from SRP, APS, and Tucson Electric. And they pretty much have the empire, so to speak, of the grid. Outside of these wall lines that have others involved. At the same time, they need to get on there to transmit this all around. I think, so when they did the power purchase agreements, yes, the utility companies purchase the power that's being produced from the developers. And they have that, then they allocate it out to wherever they're going to allocate it. But I think what's really important about renewable energy and the discussions about renewable energy, we point to Mike's comment that is asked quite often. Electricity is not the same as a pipeline, a water pipeline. They're not the same. If you have a well and you want water to go over there, you pump well, it goes in the water line, and it goes to that spot, and it comes out. Power's not that way. Electrons go on the wires and they just buzz it. They don't really go anywhere. So this one area may be putting a bunch of electrons into the wires that are renewable energy. They don't technically go anywhere. So when you buy when the power purchase agreements come out, the way those basically are structured by mandate or other enforcement about a portfolio of renewable energy, hydrocarbons, other kinds, whatever, so on and so forth. And these power companies have these, I got it from the dam, I got it from a wind farm, I got it from solar project, I got it from all these places, and it's just on. So they have like a portfolio, like your investments.
It's an investment.
So then they basically just say, well, I've got a portfolio that says I'm 35% green, this, that, this, I'm heading towards 50% here, I'm doing different things. And it's this more kind of logistics on paper when it comes to the power purchase agreements and these utility companies distributing out the energy. Nobody really ever gets something. It's just electrons. And so when you say, well, I wish we could keep it here, well, it's no more here or there than anywhere else. And so it's just that the power companies can say, we're now 50% renewable or we're X, whatever, and so on and so forth. So I don't know if that's helpful or not, but the main point is it's not a water line. It's simply just filling, and then they have this portfolio that says, here's how we're producing this.
So the answer is we don't know how much of it is staying close by and how much is going further.
And so when somebody says like Google down in Phoenix, we just now went green with our company because we're now all renewable energy. Well, that's only on paper. They went to the power company and said, we will buy that portion of it, and you're going to say, when we give our money to you, it's coming from that renewable energy project. But the actual electrons, they could be coming from the new Palo Verde. And so it's all kind of funky.
Well, I think what they're worried about is they hear, like I heard, that most of the power that, say, like the power plant of Page used to make, a great percentage of it went to Nevada and California, and very little of it came to Arizona, to us. And I think that that's what they're disturbed about.
Yeah,
But that's a good explanation for who gets what.
General's power purchase agreements for the dam were signed by those other utilities. They said, we want the power. And that's where the power went, based on those long-term 50-plus-year contracts. Billy's comment is when in California, when it's 110 degrees over there, and their air conditioner is set at 70 degrees, they can have brownouts, because they don't know power. They won't have a brownout if we don't have 115-degree temperatures in Phoenix. When it's 115 degrees temperature in Phoenix, California needs to set their thermostats to 85 degrees and they'll have plenty of power. The reason is just what he was saying, it's moving around and Arizona says, my God, we need to keep our thermostats at 70 degrees. Phoenix soaks up the power and they won't make it to the grid to California, so California has their brownouts. But generally, they're not both having heat, they'll make it to California. And
Are there more comments on sustainability? Two more comments on sustainability, so we can move on to the other two
How
chapters.
much food is produced and consumed, we talked about that. Okay, then go down to policy ASR 13, support small scale agriculture and ranching projects. That whole paragraph is about the economic pressures of producing food, and you can't, the county is not gonna do anything about that. I don't think.
Do you think we should delete that policy?
No,
No, but I just think realistically, there's not a whole lot we can do.
Well, if the policy's in the plan, then it gives us
Well-
some sort of, backing for supporting.
We don't have any implementation strategies that are specific. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like how the county could support small scale agriculture in ranching?
That's not say small scale. And we don't care what size it is, we need to support it. If we
All right, so we need to change
I need
that.
to support that.
The way to support it would be with what?
Just take out small scale and leave agriculture.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, so
Would it make sense to talk a little bit about the appendix, Melissa?
Briefly, yeah, so we've got
I
new laws.
just wanted to say, put a caveat on this. The implementation strategies that are in this, like, we're very clear about our goals and policies, but the implementation strategies, like, we have some of them in this chapter and some of them in our appendix. And right now, we're in the process of sort of working on the appendix. So there might be some changing of implementation strategies. And we may have less of them actually that are in this chapter and more in the appendix. Just because we're looking at the appendix and sort of the beginning of a sustainability, like a framework for a sustainability plan for the county. And so I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you. But you'll be seeing that appendix later on.
We've given it to you, we need to continue to update it and get that back to you as it builds. It's just background information to what you're looking at in these chapters. And then I do want to mention on implementation strategies, we want to bring those to you as a collective document at the end so you can rank them. So we'll be taking them from every chapter, putting them in one document and asking you all to rank them for priority. But that'll be at the end, once we're through this.
And then we had that one update to a
You know,
policy.
do you have it in front of you? Could you read it? I couldn't find it very, I put your email somewhere, Nina, and I didn't put it in the PowerPoint.
Okay, let me see. Hold that up.
Or I can email, why don't I email it to the group, if you don't have it.
I do have it right here.
So if you guys would like,
Small scale,
Well, I think we.
Nina, what was that number again?
Sorry.
So small.
Why
don't we just go
you want to just say agriculture?
We're gonna do that.
Then other people take that, and say, oh, those are bad.
Well, okay, if we scratch small scale, and just put support agriculture, right?
Well, it's listed as a note, there are no options. If you're going to sustainability and land use topics, there are definitions that are being used to make sure that they all stay consistent through each of the types of chapters. Sustainability is one of those words that is, a red flag when you hear it, because it's oftentimes has a definition based on the context it's used. And and then with some of these land use words that are also conservation example was brought up tonight, so on and so forth. Really to see those all together, the definitions of these words, so that they kind of, when you talk about building a framework, a sustainability framework, it's going to be largely built on the context of those definitions. So anyway, that's just a note.
So you have to maybe definitions in the appendix, actually.
Well, actually, we have a separate glossary and we're working on that, so we'll be bringing you the glossary and everything, it will be hyperlinked eventually, so anything that's underlined or actually right now that's bolded will be in the glossary, so thank you for that, though, we'll be working on that as we go. And I did just want to go back to the conversation that Jim and Diana were just having, we're gonna remove small scale in that policy and just leave it support agriculture. Does that work? And then Nina had one change.
One
policy.
change,
And what was
yeah.
that policy
So
number?
it's policy number SR2.
2.
So this policy is to continue to utilize best practices and technologies for reducing energy, material, and water use, as well as waste reduction. So that is for county organization, not for county-wide sustainability. But none of our policies under the county being a model of sustainability includes renewable energy. And so we wanted to add on to this policy. And so it would become continue to utilize best practices and technologies for reducing energy, material, and water use, as well as waste production. And then semicolon, continue expanding county renewable energy infrastructure. So not, yeah, we started with transition to renewable energy and in a conversation with facilities that made, sounded a little like they're going for net zero. So instead of that, we have continue expanding county renewable energy infrastructure. So that is the change we're proposing.
And what does the county infrastructure look like?
So we have solar PV on 4 of our buildings already. And so just continuing to build on that is what we're talking about doing. And that is something, we have a grant into the EPA right now for a building in Tuba City. And as part of that, that would include solar PV as well. And so when I talked to the facilities assistant manager, she was saying that, that already is moving us in that direction. And so she felt comfortable with the idea of this as a policy.
Does that sound like a good addition to everybody?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does everybody know what county infrastructure is? You're gonna put a C on the county or put Coconino County?
That would be
It would be a big C.
a big
Okay.
city.
All right, good.
Thank you. So with that, then we'll make these revisions again and post that chapter online. And then with that, then the next 2 chapters, which are new chapters that you review, would be land use, growth and development, and circulation transportation. I was gonna make a suggestion on the agenda to hear circulation transportation before land use, so our engineers can leave if they don't want to sit through land use. Would that work?
All right, I'm going to say I do. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
So here, I have the chapter up now, and we'll be taking notes as you go along and make your comments.
It would be good to know I did not make any wrong.
I don't think so.
You want me to no, I just wanted to.
Thank you.
Want to
Yeah.
Well, three, two. Everybody in around. Oh.
Yeah, maybe just,
It is deadly.
with regard to transportation circulation, you have your maps and some things here to help really put this into context. Right up front, very quickly, just putting in context, what is really the responsibilities, the obligation of Coconino County in the second largest county, all the other things that kind of get put out there, when it's everybody else's purpose, or management and ownership and everything else. Where is the county's obligation with regard to transportation at large?
I'm gonna defer to our engineers, and if you guys want to answer that, I'll be happy to start.
That's easy. We can put a link to our roadmap that we maintain. And say these are the roads that the county maintains.
So like that map right there basically shows those roads. And
I have it up here, it's kind of washed out, but it's also,
That road shows all the roads in the county. But what you're saying is, what purpose does the actual county have in the transportation system. We don't maintain hardly any of those roads up there. There's only a couple that we do maintain, and then there's a lot of local roads. So providing a link to that map, our GIS map that actually shows the routes that we actually maintain.
I just didn't want it to get inflated, but think, well, you gotta get a road to Peace Springs, you know, I mean, why don't you have roads there going to Peace Springs? That's not ours. Why don't you get a road there? So I was just wanting to, I thought it would maybe be helpful in saying, put some context on what is the roles and responsibilities for transportation. Need to get off. By the way, I think you're seeing much road. All work there.
I
And a little hot.
have noted another element of context that I thought was missing a little from this is how much of the consideration of circulation and transportation are we considering for residents versus visitors? And how much is related to, let's say, economic activity, commercial development, commercial activities? To what extent are those currently limited by our available transportation routes? And what opportunities are there to enhance things like local businesses, local manufacturing, and the like, or to enhance visitation by enhancing aspects of transportation. So it's the users and the purposes of use that I thought you could benefit from having a little more context around.
We don't prioritize those different groups. I mean, anyone that uses a county road, we're gonna get them there safely, you know, and make sure there's access and transportation and circulation for everybody. But I guess I'm having a hard time, how would we split those different groups up with policies?
Well, for one thing, appropriate funding sources might vary if you're considering visitation versus local small businesses, say,
Okay.
or, I don't know, major manufacturing, looking for more input of raw materials or feeling constrained by the ability to ship products out. So, and then, you know, there are discussions about opportunities either for public transit or for multimodal or et cetera. Again, how to prioritize those depends on, you know, which users you know, are you prioritizing people coming in from Navajo for health or elsewhere across northern Arizona for healthcare? Or are you prioritizing people commuting back and forth between Dunny Park and Flagstaff for their jobs? So, you know, that was kind of my mindset as part of the framework that I thought might be helpful for somebody reading this chapter and helpful for setting priorities among the goals and policies of the
Just to follow up on that, did you want to, Chad, explain a bit more about the funding, the FMPO funding, and why that does go mainly to the blue area there? So this blue area is the Flagstaff region, and that's what the Flagstaff regional land use plan covers, and a lot of the transportation funding is allocated to that. And I know that there's a process for that from the, well, go ahead and explain that, Nate.
Yeah, I don't know what you're getting at there.
Well, from
But our-
metro plan, that
Our
we,
funding sources for transportation come from her with our gas tax revenue, the highway user revenue fund, and it's federal and state gas tax. Then it gets divvied up by population. population is basically what we're at. Then we have our road maintenance sales tax. Nothing really is set within that.
What about the federal money that comes through Metro Plan?
So Metro Plan, they do get federal dollar, they get like $200,000 a year for fighting within, their boundaries.
Within the blue boundary?
That's all they get.
Okay, thanks for
It's
that.
operational for them.
Okay.
There's no distinction in, capital improvement fund. And I lose on.
No, not for the county. Yep. Yep. Our HERF funds we can use for any type of transportation improvement, or road maintenance sales tax. We're limited on what we can spend money on. That was, Prop 403 that was passed. What was that? 2014.
10 years.
10 years ago now?
Yeah.
So, that's pretty specific on what we can spend the money on in terms of roadway improvements or, constructing roadways or rehabilitating system of this.
Did you want to talk about the highway user funds and how that's been leveled off for a number of years?
It hasn't increased since 1992, I believe, for the state. And we were just at a conference earlier this year, and we're one of 2 states in the entire country that has not increased gas tax.
Or done something to increase the transportation, system tax.
Right.
I mean, for years, some have done sales tax, some looked at other avenues, but yeah, Arizona's one of 2 or 3 states that haven't
We need
addressed the need.
And
And that's why the county, the county in 2014 with the road maintenance sales tax, the people spoke. They saw the decline and now that's helping the county. And we've increased our, system, the condition of our system drastically in those last 10 years. So the funding, other states or counties that haven't done anything or other jurisdictions, they're suffering.
The other thing that the state hasn't done is implemented a user tax for electric vehicles. And we're one of the 4 states in the country that have not implemented a user tax for electric vehicles. So they don't pay towards any type of, they don't pay any curfew money or anything like that. So they're basically free, except for the vehicle license plate tax, which is a very minimal tax that goes to this stuff.
So you're saying that in the vast majority of states, there is a user tax on EVs. So that is a very common mechanism.
Yes.
And is it true then that other states, they adjust their gas tax? Or have adjusted their gas tax, so it's allocated then, it rated, the amount will actually increase pretty incrementally over time to keep up with demand.
The conference we were at had, I think, 5 or 6 state legislators that were on the Transportation Commission or on the Transportation Commission. There's absolutely zero appetite to look at increasing the type of tax or use revenue or transportation state.
How long is 1992? That's 30 years.
Right. Imagine operating a state highway system with the same amount of money they had 40 years ago.
Well, and the construction costs are 4 times what they were.
Yeah.
So I saw a stat, I think $1 in 1992 is like 25 cents now in construction dollars. You get about a quarter of your construction done in maintenance compared to what they did in 92.
Is that a policy goal? As far as supporting the idea of increased fuel tax on a non-tax person, but these guys are using money that's $1992 to live in 2024.
That's the only money that goes towards roadway. There are some special earmarked stuff that goes from the general fund, but those are project specific, but 90% of the projects that we see being done out of the roadway are it's all user.
I'm just gonna remind everybody to speak a little bit louder. And
Sorry.
Yeah,
But Chad did mention that the county with the 403, Prop 403, road maintenance sales tax that the county passed, would drastically been able to increase our level of service of our paving condition to a point where most people would envy this county for our asphalt condition.
Your county roads don't go by a lot of houses. And we're scattered out in the county, so you could have 10 miles of road before you hit the first house.
Right, or we're in a big neighborhood, like Williams Park or Chino Village, or we're on Lake Mary Road, or Perkinsville Road. So it's a good mixture of all types of travel. Loading.
Are there gonna be any help for the reservation?
So we do give money to, reservations for, roadway improvements, that they, can implement projects on. I think there's $2 million in there right now.
Yeah, and most recently, it used to be 200,000 a year. We gave them, but this last year, the board of supervisors gave them 500,000. And they're collecting a fund balance where they can use it and it's there for their use. So they just need to get some projects implemented. And then we also have an idea with the BIA where we grade 286 miles of roadway, basically
Right.
for full-time operators that are grading and blading for the BIA routes. School bus routes mainly.
Is that in addition to this table that shows
No, that's-
998, or is that part of
That 286 is included in that.
Laura, what page is that on? I just want to.
page 4?
Thank you.
326 miles of asphalt road and 672 of gravel or cinder, so that
Yep.
would include.
That includes the 286 BIA.
But the county does not maintain the the hard surface roads on the reservation.
No.
It's NDOT.
Correct. Or we contribute, we give them some funding to help with that.
And Billy, to get back to Michael's question, I don't believe there is a policy about lobbying for increased highway user fund tax. So there wasn't a policy written for that.
But what about, and I know this is sound crazy, but toll roads. We deal with the Forest Service and they can't do, the roads are just trashed. And they have 2 blade operators or 3 or companies. So why hide the tax in user tax on gas or EV? Why hide the tax? Why don't we? I don't want to say that again. Why don't we have user fees of all these roads? It is crazy. Everybody's having the same problem. How do we pay for it? The people that are using the road should pay for it. Otherwise, you're going to pay for it more gas taxes or whatever the taxes are. And they're hidden, and then they're administered. Who knows how they're administered? I don't know how toll roads, I've never been on, but to me it sounded like that became a good deal. We thought about it. Our grader has to fix our Forest Service roads and the county road. Putting up a little thing and said, you using this road, if you don't like what it is, put some money in here and we're gonna fix it. I mean, I don't know, but I think, why hide it?
Like he said, toll roads all over the place. When I go to visit my cousins in Virginia, you're whizzing down the freeway, and you see a toll road. Well, traffic backs up back there just like it does here. Get on the toll road, you go like the Dickens. And it just comes out of your credit card. You just pay the toll.
I don't know what it takes. Can you guys, either of you guys talk to toll roads and what that means for a state to,
For our state,
yeah, I guess it would, or even it would be interstate or federal highway, right? Put a toll on a road, I don't know much about that.
Well, I used to work for ADOT. I know it wasn't supported. I don't know why. Yeah, I can't answer to why, but there's challenges the way I see it with that too. I mean, putting all in all the booths and trying to monitor that. I think the county did a great thing 10 years ago with the state, with the sales tax. I mean, not only are the county residents participating in that, but the visitors, which is huge. And that's bringing in the visitors that are helping us with our roads and because they're using them too. So I think a gas tax or a sales tax is the way to sustain funding for the long term in transportation.
Well, then you need to have a part plan that every 5 years, there's another tax. I mean,
Well,
you gotta have a
the
plan.
road maintenance sales tax is for 20 years, so we're halfway through. Obviously, we'll want to renew that in 10 years. And if not, then we would be in a world of trouble like 8 hours now, like in the state agencies. But if we can, then the county did a great job of generating the revenue they needed. Now we need to sustain that and keep it going. And in 10 years from now, we'll be looking to renew that, I'm sure. I mean, there's not really, unless the state comes through with another source. I mean, the gas tax makes the most sense because that's a user tax. But you also need to throw in the electric vehicles with that too and figure out how to tax them because they're actually heavier than the gas vehicles and they do more damage to the roads. Heavier vehicles do more damage to the roadway. So that all needs to be worked out.
Can I ask a question then? Would it make sense to add a policy to continue support for the county road maintenance tax when it comes up for renewal? Because there's nothing in here right now. I don't believe there's a policy in here to support that. Would that be something that you would want to include for the future? Because this plan is a 20-year plan for 10 more years. So, well, you know, that would then help to support that.
So we can't, there's rules against what the county can do to, for propositions and stuff. We need to get with, yeah. I mean, I support it, but I don't think we can advocate for it.
Okay.
We can't advocate for a proposition, correct? I'm not a legal. But
It wouldn't be, it would just be support. We'll have to find out from legal staff.
we need to check with them.
Just adding support for that.
Well, what seems
Continue
to,
maintenance.
it seems to potentially be most important about that is that in this document, that roads that have integrity and you know, are, pardon me?
Safety.
Say all those different things, that's what the plan should outline. And that, you know, that's what is a value, for the folks here in Coconino County, for all the other value reasons. And just make that really strong, make sure that that's in there, because then when you go to do these other things, the politicians, everybody else starts using things to reflect back, saying, look, this is a big value in the county, and this is why we need to do this. So I put it in there, I'll just build up the value of I use the word integrity of whatever you guys word you use, but
So instead of a policy, put it in.
it's a value statement or however you just make sure your value statements are strong.
Well, I'm sorry to have kept you.
Hi, excuse me, whoever's not muted. Jess, could you, Zach, could you mute them? Today? Zach. Sorry, I'm not logging on.
So, I think that goal 7 talks about maximizing the efficiency and sustainability of transportation infrastructure investments, blah, 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 blah. But, I mean, that's the goal that talks most about the economic considerations of sustaining the transportation system. And so, you know, maybe you add in there something about staying up to date with who the users are and what the changing, you know, environmental pressures are, things like heavier vehicles. This is goal 7, it's on page 16. So you can't, you know, you can't say advocate for passing renewal of his proposition, but stay up to date so that as the context and the expenses of maintaining the system evolve, you are able to evolve the funding system for it as well.
Yeah, we could definitely create a policy about funding sources and, you know, making sure those are, or not advocating, but just looking at the funding sources and using all available resources.
Right, as appropriate to changes in the users and the value provided by the system.
And just to speak to what you're saying about the fees for Forest Service roads, there's always been a general public disdain for additional fees being charged at federal land use areas. So I think it is, there are some Forest Service areas that have daily use fees, which are very helpful, but those daily use fees are distributed among the entire forest. So it's few and far between, and it does actually take an act of Congress.
Yeah, but I think we still have to push. I mean, we have to push it, and we have to keep talking about this and come up with some new ways. So when does the gas tax, when does it expire?
The sales tax, the road
Sales
maintenance
tax,
sales tax, the county
Yes.
did in 10 years, in 2034. It was a 20-year tax.
So that means they go back to 40-year-old dollars.
Exactly.
We all know what that means. Can we rewrite that bill number 7 to include these alternate funding sources?
That's what it sounds like we're heading.
We just have to be careful and check with the attorney's office on what we can promote and what we can't.
Yeah, we'll do that. So what we'll do is we're taking these notes and we'll revise this and bring it back to the advisory group. Probably in January.
I have a question. This is Rose. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I know you were talking about roads and everything, but is it all roads you're talking about in Coconino County, or is just around maybe the city areas like Page or Flagstaff? What exactly were you wanting to, I guess, tax or toll?
the way I understand your question, Rose, is, so the map up here, if you can see it, is a bit washed out. We're talking about the county maintained roads and the funding sources for the county maintained roads, and those would be county-wide roads, not the roads within the city, or the cities, or the towns. Does that answer your question?
Okay, so so this is on page 7.
The map is on page 7, yes.
Okay, so what we're looking at is the roads that are in red.
Those are ADOT maintained roads. There's a link. There's a link to the county maintained roads.
There is, and,
You couldn't get them that detailed enough to show all the county maintained roads.
right, so I'm going, go up. And so right here on page 4, I see a typo in here, the Coconino County Public Works Department maintains, and this is the link to that map. I'll just click on it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So that's the other network that there are a lot of maps in here, so we didn't include this map, but that's available online for everyone to look at.
And it changes. Like we just stuck in some roads on neighborhood subdivision. So it changes yearly. We got rid of the road this year, we're getting rid of the road this year.
Okay, and this is a really helpful tool for the planners as well, and it is public, so. Yeah, that's where that is.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. I wasn't sure which roads or which areas you were actually talking about. So that makes it clearer. Thank you.
Thanks for asking the question, Rose. And I did want to mention, I think Jeannie Rose joined us. I don't. Hi, Jeannie.
Hi there, I'm here.
I thank you. Anything else on transportation? Or did you have something?
There's a lot of things, but we're running out of time if we're going to talk about that other chapter too, so. That's one I will, pick out is to go back to the point I made at the beginning about, trying to understand whether any of the, circulation and transportation issues are constraining to some of the other values that we talk about in the plan, such as being able to sustain local business or being able to expand economic development opportunities by bringing in more manufacturers or expanding Nestle Purina or whatever. Exporting more ice cream cones. There's mention, for example, of BNSF and railroad and 100 trains a day. But there's no mention of the places where there are sidings or access, where I know local outfits connect to and load materials or receive raw materials. And there's very little mention of Amtrak and passenger service. So are there any opportunities either for adding infrastructure along the easement that is the BNSF line, or for using that infrastructure for additional purposes? Are there any possibilities, or does anybody ask about adding access points? I don't know if they're called sidings or what it's called. Spurs, thank you, I knew that. So anyway, that's one issue that seems to get, that seems like an enormous asset. Maybe it's just because I've ridden Amtrak a number of times in the last few years. It just seems like an enormous asset that is very under-discussed in this chapter. Now, maybe the county has absolutely nothing to do with any of that stuff, but.
Yeah, it's all based off of private development and what they want with BNSF, if they want to spur on the BNSF. So they're the ones that requested through BNSF, and we probably even look at permitting for that.
Okay.
Because it's all BNSF right away.
Okay.
BNSF permitting.
Then I also think about passenger rail service and light rail and that kind of thing, partly because I used to live in New Mexico and I watched the development of, because they call it the Roadrunner between Albuquerque and Santa Fe, and it seems like that's been hugely successful. It started out like van share, and then it went up and up and up, and now it's this light rail thing. And the light rail between Denver and its airport, wait, happened in the sticks. So, if you're thinking on a 20-year timeline, what are the big picture ideas that are not even mentioned in this chapter? Like a reasonably decent way to get to Phoenix without getting in your own car and driving 80 miles an hour, or a reasonable way to for all those medical transport people to get their people to Flagstaff, to the regional medical center, without driving in individual vans. Anyway, those are some of the bigger picture questions I had as I read this chapter and tried to think about 20 years from now. Presumably, we aren't just still going to be talking about, do we have enough EV chargers for Teslas, So what are some of those additional issues that are relevant to residents, to visitors, to businesses.
I think we're talking about transportation to and from Phoenix or someplace like that. We should probably support the airlines that we have here in Tucson. I'd like to think we're only got one now. I think United pulled out and they left it with American. And my wife and I flew to Dallas not long ago and caught a plane to DC for a wedding at Fair. And there are several places that you can host, that you can fly to out of Flagstaff, and it's not very expensive. It's about the same as riding in the shuttle. Same price.
I have a question back to Laura then. Do you, and in terms of air, I wanted to talk about that in a second, but then in terms of the bigger picture ideas that maybe we didn't capture, do you have notes that we can, I can scan those and share them to the group and then we can look together to see how we might be able to weave that in? Is that, yeah, so were there other, just since we have the advisory group here, were there other big ideas like what Laura was pointing out that you see we're missing? That we should think about?
I only have one item that was involved in the drainage across roads and stuff like that. It's one of the policies that we had, 1629.
Number 29?
Yeah, I only bring it up because I've gone to Palm Desert, and on the way there, there's a 100-mile stretch of road that goes across that desert. And I'll be honest with you, there is one culvert. There's one culvert on the entire road. And you look at that, and to me, I remember highway cost star and all that. Holy cow! And I'm looking for one culvert. Just because very quickly you realize that it's a different design. Probably built that road. A lot of heavy trucks on it, a lot of traffic. We're all taking shortcuts, running through that corridor. It's a pretty desert mountain, but there's, Jackrabbit would have to carry a lunch to get across it. I mean, it's kind of rough area. But there's something covered. And we talk about these costs, maintenance and stuff. There's not one culvert. And yet you see the way they build the berms and stuff to catch the water along the side of the road and disperse it through the sheet idea across the desert. I don't know, very impressed with how that road was built. Very impressed. So I bring that up because every time we talk about drainage across roads, that has think about it without culverts, if possible. And culverts, we put them in so easily. And just, that's all I had to say. That's my one comment, just because I read this right after I was coming back.
So I was going to follow up on the big ideas, because really Laura's bringing up really what's in my heart as well, all of these chapters. And that is, you're looking down 20 years, and what does, that's all imagination, And she mentioned that, hopefully we're not still talking about putting in chargers and stuff in 2 years. But that's a real great point, because the fact is, even in 20 years from now, the usage on a majority of these roads, at least from what I can see here, the 600 miles of gravel and cinder road, this type of thing, it's like, shoot, 20 years ago, ATV was the big thing, I mean, everybody had a one-seater ATV, it was probably a three-wheel too, today, 20 years later or whatever, I mean, you've got these incredible beastie razors and stuff that are just eating up everything, right? It's hard to imagine what people even be driving, maybe it will be a little bit on hoverboard at some time, but the fact is to really imagine that the infrastructure being built today or at least being planned really are in concert with the bigger vision and bigger ideas of course.
Thank you. I have one more big picture thing. It's kind of a downer. Emergency and evacuation considerations. After the Paradise fire in California, been a number of studies about community vulnerability to things like devastating fires. And Flagstaff is like in the top 3 percentile or something of communities vulnerable to the inability to get their people out if something were to happen. Now, To me, that seems a little counterintuitive because we've got these interstates and everything, but the fact remains, people who are professional at this have ranked Flagstaff as being super vulnerable. And that must have something to do with the number of routes and their capacity and so forth. So that you have a good section in here about public safety and the Vision Zero. Somebody who lives on Townsend, Winona, I don't know how you're ever gonna get there, but that seemed like a safety element. Maybe it's in the public safety chapter that we haven't read yet, but it, certainly transportation interacts with emergency access and with people moving in a crisis. And so I just thought that was an element that might at least be cross-referenced.
And I want to just, and Chad jump in on that, but there will be in the public services and safety chapter discussion on our emergency management planning.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that they do work with public works.
Yep.
If you guys want to speak to it, how that, because there's actually, and I just saw it yesterday, you can go to the emergency management website and click on evacuation routes. They've got maps on there for people for different neighborhoods. Did you want to add anything?
No, I can't speak for them, but yeah, they have a plan for every area in the county. And
So
maybe
we'll
we'll
have-
talk more about that during the safety, is emergency management involved in that safety?
There's going to be another chapter that we'll definitely want to tie into. And then I do want to recognize, I think Miranda has her hand raised.
Miranda, do you have a question?
Yeah. I have a big picture idea that I was wanting to share. But one thing with Valley specifically is there's not a lot of places for people to ride their bikes or walk. They essentially walk on 180 or Highway 64, which is extremely dangerous because there's no space for you to ride your bike or walk. But one of the ideas that I've had is connecting Flagstaff, Valley, Williams, and the Grand Canyon through a bike trail or walking trail system to one for locals, but also for tourism, just to connect all of us together by bike trail. But yeah, that's it.
Miranda, I can 100% agree with you. Utah's done
I
it
think
all over the state.
cool.
Thank you for
Yeah,
bringing that
electric
to
bike.
Nate and Chad, you want to talk about that?
Oh, and Nate's done most of the.
So we just submitted a grant application for a countywide multimodal connectivity trail master plan. We should know in January if we did it or not.
Super.
And that's in this document. Let me find out.
It's about $1 million grant application.
Oh, that would be awesome.
So look on page 9 of your chapter, and it's got some nice description about what that would actually do. Again, we're going to get to it. That could be very exciting though.
So a lot of these big picture ideas, the county in probably the last 20 years hasn't done a ton of transportation study. And that's something that we're really looking at doing right now is keeping our roadway system maintained, but also looking at issues and areas where we can improve our transportation system. But it can't just be kind of when ideas, it needs to actually be looked at, understand what the problem is, understand what multiple different solutions are, understand the problems of those solutions and how to overcome those problems. And that's done to the transportation study phase within the Miranda project. So that's something that we're really, we have we have 4 studies going on right now for transportation planning. One out in Belmont, because that's one of our biggest areas of future development and looking at how we can help the transportation circulation system out in Belmont to promote more effective and efficient circulation out there while promoting more industry and bringing the industry into that area, because that's one of our biggest areas where we can develop fairly easily for both industry, industrial, commercial development, and residential development. And then we're also looking at, we're getting ready to kick off a countywide safety master plan and for our transportation system. That will be a very large study that will look at all of our arterial and major collector roadways and look to see where we can improve on all of our major collector and arterial roadways where we have most of the fatalities and incapacitating crashes, and see where we can implement engineering and non-engineering solutions to try to help reduce fatality and incapacitating crashes.
Is there also a federally funded?
That's a federally funded one.
Cool.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about that in the chapter?
It's in safety stuff.
Well, we have it in chapter.
We don't talk about the study itself when we talk about safety visions or.
Informational.
Sorry?
Sorry?
We're gonna run
Okay, so yeah, we, I guess.
Just real quick on top of that, having these studies in place will make future funding opportunities.
Right.
A lot higher chance. If you have a study, you can just apply for all these different grants. So
If you get that study done.
it makes us more competitive. Yeah, a lot more competitive.
Right. So they're not things that we just sit on the shelf, things that we can actually take and implement and utilize to help limit traffic.
Well,
Billy, do you want to?
Well, there's, any further questions from anybody online?
No, but I really like the conversation of that. I think just having that connection as far as bikes and trails and things like that, I think those are really important. And I think just, I don't know, having other alternative ways into emergency type things is, I think, is good when it's utilizing those kinds of these other forms of transportation, like bikes, maybe even horses, things like that could be incorporated into an emergency plan too, especially out on the reservation areas. I think those are important when vehicles are not always the best mode, especially when maybe it's raining or muddy and those kinds of things. So those are some things to think about on the other scale of when roads are not well maintained in emergency situations. Thank you.
I agree. And in addition to that, I think Rose was talking about horses, and they proved in North Carolina just about a month and a half ago that horses can be really valuable when the infrastructure goes down.
Yeah.
The roads are washed out and the trees are across the roads, and it was impossible to get a vehicle anywhere. And they packed on horseback people out and putting supplies in to those areas. So don't sell your horses.
So our public works staff needs a stable horses now.
Culturally. Yeah. All right, are there any further questions? Well, thank you guys for spending the evening with us and what you do.
Yeah.
Thank you for volunteering and helping with this process.
So are we gonna go over this?
The land use chapter, we're gonna try to get through that, yeah.
I think we should have more time.
Which are one of the bigger ones for a lot of us in here.
So I have a question. When do you want to get this done?
Well, right now, the last meeting that is on your calendar for me was December 19th, which we're changing now to January. So we were hoping to have this ready for 60-day public review starting in February or March, but it's not a set in stone deadline. But we're hoping to have this ready for 60-day review, public review, and public hearings in the spring or summer. Remember, the board is on leave in July, so July is not a month we can plan for. Yeah, so it is somewhat flexible, and we are hoping to stay on a bit of a schedule with this.
It needs to be like this.
You have to meet rural lifestyle in 15 minutes.
It's pretty-
Pretty.
Okay, well, if we need to, finish your preference, we could schedule that for the next meeting, for land use chapter.
It's a big one, I don't know,
Okay.
but I think it's key, it's portion.
Maybe what anyone should do is if you had comments already, if you could email the comments to me, and I can send them out to the group, that way everyone can see what they are, and we can come with it. There to discuss that at the next meeting. That work?
That would be really great.
Okay, and that would be then, again, January 16th, but we still have public comments to go through.
Yeah, that way we can do those. All right, does that sound fair enough to you guys, that we do that? Move this way, everybody online understand what we just did? We're gonna move, land use, section that we were gonna visit about tonight. We're gonna move that to January 16th. And in addition to, the other materials, and we'll just push them forward as needed, make sure that we get some quality discussion there. If you have comments regarding the land use section, if you would send those to Melissa ahead of time, so that we've all had the chance to see and read everybody's thoughts. That would be a terrific way for us to get through that section a little bit more efficiently. So with that, from the folks that are here, public folks, do you have, is there anybody who wants to reach out at this time? Public comment?
There's anybody on. And did you want to introduce yourself? Excuse me, I didn't.
No worries. No, I'm just coming from another meeting, so a little late. I'm Kim Robinson. I'm a Donny Park resident, passionate rural advocate. And I was involved in the Donny Park feedback session, I think 2 years ago. And I've been involved in the Flagstaff, City of Flagstaff plan, even as a county president. And I got the email for this, and I said, how the heck am I missing these? I have no idea. So I just wanted to make sure I was involved, especially in land use. And I think at the Donny Park meeting, I got on people's nerves talking about sidewalks. So I'm thinking about getting myself a t-shirt that says sidewalks. I'm tired of seeing kids almost get hit, walking from our elementary. But I love this stuff. I geek out a little bit, and I'm very happy to be here.
Well, we'll see you at January 16th.
I will see you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, if there's no other public comment, then how about we adjourn for tonight? Does that sound fair enough?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, everybody.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody
Good-
online.
Good
Thanks,
night.
everyone.
Yes,
Have a good night.
Transportation's a big one too, right?
Hey, Melissa, I'll stop the recording now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Appreciate it all.